the Brahma Kumaris Raj Yoga centers in the Asia Pacific region. Her special area of interest is in the field of self-transformation, personal development, and how the human being's mental process can be enhanced through an accurate method of meditation. A medical doctor and a yogi, Dr. Nirmala combines the pragmatic qualities of a doctor with the mystical understanding of Raj Yoga. She has been practicing Raj Yoga for 46 years since she first came across it in December 1962 in Mumbai, India. She continued her medical practice there for another 10 years. During this time, she was also running a BK center from 1966 to 1971. Convinced of the practical benefits of meditation, Dr. Nirmala decided to incorporate meditation into her treatments. In 1965, she established a clinic specializing in diseases common to third world countries and discovered that her patients responded much better when their treatment was supplemented with meditation. She quoted, "The aim of my study was to help people. I could see that with medicine, I could help on a limited level to cure sickness for a short time only. After a while, the patients would come back with the same problem. Medicine could help, but the main cause was psychosomatic." She also quoted, "Meditation can help us understand tension and stress and how to manage it before it gets the better of us. Meditation helps us to learn to control our thoughts in a positive way and to adjust our mental outlook so that the mind and body can regain their proper balance. It also facilitates the development of our talents and virtues for a constructive and creative way of life." Eventually, Dr. Nirmala ceased practicing medicine in favor of meditation. In 1971, she left India for London, traveling throughout the United Kingdom, East Africa, and Mauritius during the next 7 years. From 1971 to 1974, she lived in London. In 1974, she lived for a few months in Africa, in Zimbabwe and Zambia, and spent 1975 to 1978 in Mauritius. After having visited Australia in 1975, she returned to live in Sydney in 1978. Since then, she has been based in Australia, though her yearly lecture tours in association with Raj Yoga centers in over 60 countries have taken her to every continent in the world. As the administrative head of the Brahma Kumari's activities in the Asia Pacific region, her role spans 15 countries, 72 centers, 56 sub-centers, and 4 retreat centers in Australia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, Fiji, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Mongolia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. Dr. Nirmala spoke on the following topics. In 1998, Change, Time for Stability in Bangkok, Thailand. 1999, Secret of Silence in Thailand. 2000, Four Faces of Women. 2001, Health and Wellness, Meditation as Medication, Manila, Philippines. Benefits of Meditation, Cambodia. Management and Leadership in Times of Crisis and Social Conflict, Korea. Power of Concentration, Korea. Healing Heart and Soul, Philippines. Four Faces of Women, Australia. Interfaith Gathering in Spain. The influence of thoughts and feelings in the process of health and illness, emotional balance and overcoming stress in Spain. Health, well-being, and quality of life in Spain. Solutions to psychosomatic illnesses in Spain. The humanization of leadership and project management in Russia. Success in mission, spirituality instead of violence in Russia. Spirituality for modern times in Australia. Peace, religion, and God in Sri Lanka. And then there was lecture tour in Korea, World Conference of Religions for Peace in Japan, the role of women in today's changing times in Fiji, light a candle for peace in Thailand, meditation and inner healing in Bangkok, Thailand, self mastery in Thailand, language of the heart, Thailand, inner beauty, healthy city, Thailand, experiencing liberation in life, Korea, interfaith dialogue with Buddhist monks in Cambodia, for the new millennium, stress management for medical practitioners, healing heart and soul, inner strength, stability, and courage, power of women, power of peace in Thailand. In 1997 through 2008, annual International Peace of Mind Retreat, Mount Abu, India. Currently, Dr. Nirmala is the director of Gyan Sarovar Complex at the Brahma Kumaris headquarters in Mount Abu, and she is a trustee of Brahma Kumaris. I now pass over to Sister Ranjan.
Thank you, Sister Nima, reading this long biodata, but it was very accurate. And I'm sure that Didi has all the treasures of experience serving this so many countries and so many places on different topics, receiving the power from this meditation and serve the world. So I now request Didi to share her experiences for about 20-25 minutes, and then we will go to question answer.
Om Shanti. Greeting of peace to everybody. So we are at the moment having Navratri festival, but due to COVID-19 situation, everything everywhere is virtual. That's the benefit of this pandemic, that we are able to meet through internet. Otherwise, you would be in USA and I would be only in one country. But now, virtually, we can be anywhere, everywhere. In one day, we can go to different countries virtually. So you saw and heard about 9 goddesses, and these goddesses have 8 arms with different weapons. Now the mothers, goddesses we call mother. So the mother will not kill, Kali will not kill the children, the devils. They will not be violent. So these weapons represent knowledge, lotus flower represents purity. Swadarshan Chakra represents the cycle of life through which we go through. And mace and bow and arrow and trident and all represents knowledge. So through the knowledge and the power of meditation, Shaktis are able to have lots of power. The main 8 powers that we receive from meditation are power to cooperate, power to judge, power to discern, power to accommodate, power to pick up best thoughts, power to face situation, power to withdraw our mind whenever we want, and power to tolerate. Apart from power of love, peace, happiness, etc. In Navratri, especially in Gujarat, Rajasthan, we have Garba and Ras, which depicts that once we have knowledge and meditation, we are able to have harmony amongst ourselves and we can dance with happiness. In Navratri, whenever we dance, we have a dhan pot, matka, with deepak. Now, this matka represents our body and the deepak represents the soul. So, when we have connection with Shiva, we become Shiv Shakti or living goddesses of power. Fortunately, I was born on the 4th day of Navratri on a physical level in 1935. And in 30s, 40s, 50s, the girls were very protected. So I never used to go alone anywhere, whether for shopping or any new place. Even in 1955, when I went for my medical interview to get admission, first time when I went to the medical college, my uncle accompanied me. Now, I took this knowledge in 1962 when I had already completed my medical study and I had been already practicing medicine in different hospitals. And when I heard this knowledge, it sounded very appropriate because I took medicine so that I can help people. And my Lokik father was also social worker. So he wanted me to be a doctor and help people. So I said, if I want to study medicine, I don't want to get married because in those days, my all sisters got engaged by 17, 18, and got married by 19, 20 years old. And I said, at once I finished my school certificate, my parents start looking for match marriage boys. So I told my parents that if I want to study medicine, I don't want to get married in between because once people get engaged in those days, they'll say, okay, let them get married soon. Once they get married, they will have children, responsibility of family, social gathering, etc. So I said, no, I don't want to get married now. So I got my degree and I started studying meditation as well as working as a doctor. Then in 1964, by that time in Mumbai, there were only two centers which were in a high rise building in a flat. So Ramesh Bhai from Bombay, he thought it might be good to have an ashram of Brahma Kumaris in a proper bungalow rather than in a flat. So he requested me to look for bungalows around where I was staying in Kandivali, which was about 20 miles away from Central Business District. And our main center was there in CBD. So my Lokik family was not in knowledge. So once Ramesh Bhai requested, I started looking for bungalows around my area. But because my Lokik family was not in Gyan, I had to do it myself. And that's where I found knowledge helped me to be so much courageous to go around with agents and look for different houses. Sometimes some BKs around were coming and helping me to look for house. Sometimes I had to go alone. Then in 1971, as my biodata mentioned, I had to go overseas with four others for attending international yoga conference. And when we were in London, we had exhibition and Jagdish Bhai was with us. So we all sat together and Jagdish Bhai said, okay, we must start some service rather than just touring around the world and giving talks. So it was decided that one of us will have to stay in London to start service. and others were having some job at home or parents to look after. So I had to stay in London. Now in London, to start center in 1971 October, it was difficult to get a flat for Baba's service. Ultimately, we got flat, and in that flat, I was staying alone, and upstairs were two West Indian brothers. So we had common door, common bath and toilet, and bath and toilet were upstairs where these two brothers were there, and I was staying downstairs. So after going from India, where I had lived with a big family, joint family of about 13 members, then staying in center in Mumbai, where there were already two sisters with me and about 30 students in Mumbai when I went in 71. I had to stay alone in this flat, but Baba gave me that courage to stay alone and do everything, because in India, whether in Laukik or Alaukik life, I never went for shopping or never had to do much karma yoga. But in London, we had to do everything: shopping, cooking, cleaning. And to start with, there was nobody for morning class. The mothers used to come at around 2 o'clock. About 4 or 5 mothers used to come. And weekend, there would be 8 or 10 students. So on returning from London, because I had ticket around the world when I went in 71, but I didn't use it. So I used it to travel through Frankfurt, Rome, East Africa. So somebody in London said that when you are returning to India, you must visit East Africa because there are many Indian families over there. So in 72, when I was returning, I visited these new countries. Rome, there was no Brahman or anyone. I was supposed to see Pope on Wednesday because usually on Wednesday, Vatican is open for everybody. Then I went in Frankfurt where there was one brother, Stephen, who organized my talk in some organization. Then I went to Kenya, where I visited Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, Kisumu. And usually the Indian Association people would fetch me from airport, take me around to the temples for talk, and media for promotion of the talk. So I did traveling alone. There were no BK Center or BK family or Lokik family. I had to meet some new people, and luckily they were very helpful to drive me around, take me to the bus stop to go to the next city. In the next city, somebody will give me lift from bus stop to my accommodation, etc., and arrange my talks. So from Kenya, I went to Uganda, where I visited Kampala, Jinja, Mabale. Then I went to Tanzania, where I went to Dar es Salaam, Arusha, Moshi, etc. So I see how meditation helped me to be so courageous, travel by myself, and be independent. Then in 1975, I came to Australia and beginning of centers, whether in Mauritius, London, Australia, was not so easy. So in Australia, we had I had company of Sister Suman, who is now in Germany, and brother who invited us to Australia. But I left Australia after 4 months of service to go to New Zealand, because when I was in Australia, one of the brother, I think all of you might be knowing, Pratibha from Kenya's father, Kaka, he was suggesting that I should go to New Zealand and Fiji because they are mostly Indian over there, and they would be very receptive to Raj Yoga. So I decided before leaving Australia in 76 to travel to New Zealand and Fiji, where also there were no centers, no BKs, no Lokik family, no friends, nobody. But I wrote to different Indian association, and in one of the Auckland Indian Association didn't give answer, but Divine Life Society, they invited me to come and stay with them, and they will organize talks. So when I went to Auckland, they said, you come, take airport bus to city terminus, and somebody will come to pick you up at city terminus. So I arrived at city terminus around 1 o'clock in the morning. And there was nobody to pick me up. So I took taxi, and whatever correspondence I was having with their office, which was in city, and their ashram was about 8 kilometers away from city in Henderson. So I showed taxi driver the address that I had of the office. When we went there, the office was in a multi-story building and the gates were closed. So we took, the driver was good. So he said, let us go to telephone booth and ring the ashram. So when we rang ashram, they said, oh, sorry, the brother who was going to pick you up, the car was out of order. And so please take taxi and come to our ashram at this address. And in a new country, in midnight, being a single lady, I had no fear because I had been by that time Shiv Shakti and had that God Almighty with me. So we went to the ashram and I traveled around different cities in New Zealand and Fiji and came back to India. So if I look at my life after learning meditation, I became courageous, fearless, and any situation I could face before coming or learning meditation, I was detached from my Lokik family because when I left home in 1966, because I started center in 1966 in Mumbai, and my center was only 5 minutes walk from my home. So when my sisters got married, my mother used to cry. But when I left home, my mother never cried or complained that you are leaving home. So my parents were also detached, and I was also detached. Also, when I left Mumbai to establish centers in overseas in 71, 72, the students were crying that, oh, you are leaving us, etc. But I never felt any attachment to the Mumbai center or students. So I was detached, but not enough loving, because in India, in 1940s, 50s, we never used to hug any brother, sister, parents, nothing, no hugging, no kissing, nobody saying, oh, I love you, etc. Whereas in the West, when we come, unless we say somebody to somebody that, oh, I love you, you're so nice, etc., nobody thinks that you are loving them. So I had to have balance of being detached and loving. Secondly, I was brought up with discipline. So I was, as a student, also very punctual, regular, and I used to reach center after traveling 1.5 hours in time or before most of the local students used to arrive at Brahma Kumari Center, I'm talking about, because I was staying about 20 miles away from center which I was visiting. So I was quite disciplined, and I used to follow all discipline of Brahman life, and I expected all the students also to be disciplined. So I was in the beginning quite strict, but gradually I started developing the balance of strictness and sweetness. And because of meditation, I could see that I could accept everybody as they are. As you know, in the West, especially in Australia, I found BKs were very honest. And if they made any mistake, they would come and talk honestly that they have made this mistake. And sometimes it may be very serious mistake of having relationships and sleeping together with some partner, etc. So after committing their mistake, they will come and talk to me, and it was easy for me to be to forgive them and still accept them as they were. So with meditation, I develop clarity of thoughts, my judgment power, discerning power increased, and I was able to give right advice to all those who were seeking advice. So I found that my loving attitude helped them to continue Gyan. They were not feeling completely hopeless. Usually, when people make mistake, they feel hopeless, and they feel lack of self-esteem. But they continued Gyan and kept good relationship and connection with me throughout their BK life. So BK life helped me to fulfill my aim, because my aim was to help people, and with just medicine I could help them only physically. I could help them to have bodily help. But now, with meditation, I can help them both ways, mentally, physically, spiritually. So, by me being empowered, I am able to help others also to be empowered. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, Didi. You have described and share your experience being on this journey of being a meditator and serving others using those powers that you received through meditation. Now I would ask audience if anyone has any question for Didi.
Can I ask sister one question?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah. Let me ask Didi that to ask dowry is a offense and illegal, and to give dowry is also illegal. But I think we have heard, Didi, you have got the dowry in a spiritual way. So would you enlighten that dowry? And still Baba has inaugurated that dowry center. Can you please enlighten on that?
Om Shanti.
Thank you, Om Santi.
My Lokik father was businessman, and he had so much income that if he kept everything in his own name, he would have to pay 90% of his income as a tax. So, as a clever businessman, what he did is we made all his children. We were 8 of his children, and my brother was married. So he, his wife, his 2 children, means children and grandchildren, all were partners in his business. So naturally, whatever income we had as a shareholders, he thought he will use it for our marriage and dowry. Because in 1950s, when my sisters got married, naturally it was not compulsory dowry, but parents had to give something to the daughters. And to my 2 younger sisters who got married before I became doctor, I told my father, let them get married. They should not wait for me to get married. So when they got married, my father gave them flat for their dowry, because my brother-in-law were not so rich and they didn't have their own flat. So naturally, when I decided I don't want to get married, and we wanted a center in my suburb, so I asked my Lokik father to give my share of my money. So he didn't think that he is giving a dowry, but my share, he used to say, it is your share, your money, you can use it in whatever way. And so I requested my father to buy me flat, and he willingly bought flat for me, though I had to look for the flat, the, and everything. I had to furnish it and everything, but he paid for that. So the thing is, according to him, it was my money, and we consider it as a dowry because that's how in those days it was happening.
Thank you, Didi, for that answer. Um, anyone else has any question? Didi, can you talk about little bit of on power of tolerance?
It's very essential because that's what we find. Everybody gets angry. Sex, lust, it is very easy to conquer. But anger and I would say greed also, because we are allowed to have toli, ice cream, chips, etc. And so uh, tolerance is very necessary because otherwise we get angry and react with anger whenever something does wrong, especially when somebody is in a position they think it's their right to get angry. Whereas meditation tells us not to react with anger, but have mercy. If somebody is doing something wrong, it's because they don't know what is right or they don't have power to do the right thing. And so, what we do is we get angry either in thoughts, words, or action because as a BK, we don't come into action. But sometimes people may come into words and most of the time in the mind. But now, knowing the mantra of Om Shanti, that I am a peaceful soul, what we do is whenever there is some situation or circumstances or people who are doing a wrong thing, rather to get angry and upset, we sit, meditate, remind ourselves that I am a peaceful soul. And what we do is not react. So gradually, we develop that power to tolerate and remain quiet. It takes time to conquer anger, but I have seen many people very short tempered have become very quiet, and because of that, their staff is also peaceful and quiet and not stressed. So, just as we give the example, when we, we are throwing stone to the tree to get fruit, Tree doesn't sow thorn but give us fruit. In the same way, we should not react with anger but have good wishes and pure feelings for the soul. And that's what helps us. Because if I get angry, I lose my peace. Second thing is I may lose my sleep, I may lose my appetite, and I'm hurting somebody. And if I give sorrow to somebody, I'll receive sorrow. So, knowing all this karmic philosophy and disadvantage of getting angry, I, as a meditator, try to tolerate and be peaceful and merciful. Om Shanti. Any other question?
Anyone has any?
I have a question, Bain. Um, so we know that the world is, the times are tough right now. So, what should be our effort during such times?
Main thing is Baba is again and again emphasizing to have deep meditation and empower ourselves. More we are able to meditate, more we are able to accumulate imperishable treasures of love, peace, happiness, mercy, benevolence, etc. And that will help us not only to face the situation, because we know day by day the situation is becoming worst. We don't know when pandemic will be over. So we need to spread that vibration of peace and happiness in the atmosphere. And more we have power, we will be able to help others. Because those who come in our contact will also be peaceful. And people will need a drop of peace, love, happiness, mercy, etc. in the end. So we had to accumulate and remain stable and unshakable. Not allow any fear, stress, worry, etc.
Thank you so much, Didi, for your answer. And now it is time for meditation. And we really appreciate your sharing and learned a lot. So now we will close with meditation. We thank you very much, everyone else, also those who have joined for this evening for the program. And so, Didi, you would like to um, conduct meditation, or just we have silence and music?
Silence and music.
Would be good. Okay, thank you.
Om Shanti.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Didi, for your time, giving us your special sustenance online. And we appreciate and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
we'll,
Shanti.
we'll see you tomorrow evening again at 8:50 with Sister Meera. Thank you.